Good day everyone. I am Clarice Margaret A. Regla. Today I am going to discuss the Western and Eastern concept of self. Eastern and Western concept of self, prepared by Clarice Margaret A. Regla, BS Ed Filipino 1B. Before we go through our discussion, let us first read the lesson objectives. At the end of this discussion, you should be able to understand the Western concept of self, enumerate and discuss the different Eastern concept of self, and compare Eastern and Western views of the self. So since we already knew our lesson objectives, we are now going to discuss the Western concept of self. So, Western thoughts. Ancient Greek philosophers see humans as bearers of irreplaceable values. This means that there is a heavy emphasis on the individuality or the separateness of the self. Next, Saint Thomas Aquinas believed that body constitutes individuality. This means that what makes you separate being is the fact that you have your own body, and Westerners are more likely to emphasize separateness, that even though you are connected to others, you should maintain individuality. Last, René Descartes is famous for his quote, "I think, therefore I am." This means that Westerners are more likely to talk about personal characteristics because they highlight how separate they are from the other people and their uniqueness. Because for them, individuality is important than being connected to each other. Frank Johnson, 1985, outlined 4 categories on how the term self is used in contemporary Western discussion. So first is the analytical. It is the tendency to see reality as an aggregate of parts. The self is an observer separate and distinct from external objects, which means me versus other. Second is the monotheistic. It involved the tendency toward unitary explanations of phenomena and closed system view of self as modeled after unitary, omnipotent power, which means man was created by God in his image. Third is the individualistic. It is a quality of Western thinking where self-expression and self-actualization are important ways of establishing who one is, as well as in finding satisfaction in the world. Fourth and lastly is the materialistic or rationalistic. Western thinking tends to discredit explanations that do not use analytic deductive modes of thinking. So, in Western thought, they emphasize the importance of scientific methods of investigation to provide satisfactory answers to understand the self. The emphasis in Western thoughts is individualistic rather than relational. So, the next one is the Eastern thoughts. Eastern thoughts raise questions about the ultimate meaning of life. Their concept of understanding the self is usually related with religion. The emphasis is relational rather than individual. So, in Western thought, the emphasis is individualistic rather than relational. So, in Eastern thoughts, the emphasis here is relational rather than individual. So, Eastern thoughts, self is considered not in isolation, but in relation to others, society, and the universe. So, there are 4 pillars of Indian psychology. First is Dharma. It refers to the rules that describe goodness and appropriate behavior. Second is the Karma. Karma refers to the movement from past incarnations that affect the present and the future. Third is the Maya. It refers to distorted perceptions of reality and experience that can be identified as such only with direct attention to our processes of awareness that come about through internal concentration or meditation. Fourth is the Atman. It refers to a concept of universality in which the self is seen not as individual but as part of the entire cosmos. So, cosmos means universe. So, we are now going to have a closer look to different Eastern thoughts. First is the Buddhism. So, Buddhism comes from the root word Bud, meaning awake. It implies that when the eyes are open, it would lead to understanding more about yourself, the world, or the universe. So, you need to be awake. You need to be, your eyes are open to observe what is happening in your environment or in the society where you are belong. So, Siddhartha Gautama, also known as Buddha, the founder of Buddhism. In Buddhist traditions, the self is not an entity, a substance or essence. Rather, the self is a dynamic process. It is interdependent and ever-changing. Anatta is a doctrine taught by Buddha, which is often defined as no self or no soul. It means that there is only nothing and all else is an illusion. There is nothing permanent but change. So it means in Buddhism that everything in life is always changing and that nothing lasts forever. And is the Hinduism. It is the religion of an ancient people known as Aryans. So, law of karma is the most important doctrine of Hinduism. Hindus believe that Atman, being an immortal soul, continues to be reincarnated from lifetime to lifetime until it is freed from the cycle of rebirth and reach a state of non-birth. So, reincarnation means rebirth of the soul or aspect of an individual that persists after bodily death. So, karma does not end with a body's death. Its influence may extend through incarnation of the soul. It means that what goes around comes around. So, it is Hinduism. The Confucianism. The self is something that is formed through upbringing and the environment. Personality is achieved through moral excellence. So, Confucianism is a system of thought and behavior originated in ancient China. 4 beginnings of self in Confucianism. First is Zhen, means heart of compassion. Second is Yi, means heart of righteousness. Third is Li, means heart of propriety. And fourth is Qi, means heart of wisdom. Self-cultivation could be accomplished by knowing one's role in the society and act accordingly. So, in Confucianism, moral character is perfected through continuously taking every opportunity to improve oneself in thought and action. In Confucianism, there is a golden rule that do not do to others what you would not want others do to you. So, in Confucianism, there is a relation and status of oneself in the society. Fourth and lastly is the Taoism. So, Taoism, the self is an extension of the cosmos. Cosmos means universe. It refers to the same concept, which is the world or nature, not of social relationships. Self is described as one of the limitless forms of the Tao. It is commonly regarded as nature that is the foundation of all that exists. So in Taoism, its target is to have a balanced life of both good and bad. Taoists believe of simplicity, spontaneity, and harmony should govern one's life. Now that we understand the different thoughts of Western and Eastern, now let us look at the comparison of Western and Eastern in understanding the self. So, models and approaches of understanding the self. Dimension, Western thoughts, Eastern thoughts. First is the identity. In Western thoughts, the identity is personal, defined by individual traits or goals. In Eastern thoughts, social, defined by connection with others. So, in Eastern thoughts, they are social. They are connected with other people, while in Western thoughts, it is personal, always in oneself. Second is the ideal. In Western thoughts, self-actualization through personal growth, while in Eastern thoughts, to achieve a balanced life and find one's role in society. Next is view of self. In Western thoughts, there is egocentric. Egocentric because in Western thoughts, it is always me, and I. While in Eastern thoughts, it is sociocentric. It is sociocentric because it talks about harmony with other people and doing good to other person. So, next is the view of the universe and life. In Western thoughts, it is linear, which means line. So, linear, if you were born, you will die. You have the beginning and you have the end. While in Eastern thoughts, it is circular. Why it is circular? Because they believe in afterlife and reincarnation or incarnation. In Eastern thoughts, if you die, you will live again. It won't end there. It is always circular or umiikot siya lagi. Umiikot yung cycle ng life ng tao. So next is the cultural framework and theological view. In Western thoughts, it is individualism or monotheistic. So monotheistic from the word mono, isa lang. Isa lang ang supreme being. While in Eastern thoughts, it is collectivism or polytheistic or pluralistic. Polytheistic because more than one is the supreme being or plural. Next is the source of knowledge. In Western thoughts, it made use of reason rather than faith to pursue wisdom. So in Western thoughts, they are more in investigation, observation, and analyzation. While in Eastern thoughts, they have trusted intuition and is often associated with religious beliefs. Next, notable philosophers in Western thoughts: Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, René Descartes, and John Locke. Meanwhile, in Eastern thoughts, Siddhartha Gautama, or known as Buddha, Confucius, and Lao Tzu. Last is the modes of cognition: analytic and deductive. in Western thoughts. Meanwhile, in Eastern thoughts, it is synthetic and inductive. Western thoughts, analytic, just like what I've said earlier, they are more on analyzation and observation. So, that is the comparison of Western and Eastern thoughts. So, I hope that you've learned a lot in our discussion about Western and Eastern concept of self. So, thank you for watching. God bless.